Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from loose_alternative_91. AITA for telling my friend that I get hotter men than her. I and my friend R, both 18F, have been friends since high school in sophomore year. She always was quite rude and had a reputation for people not liking her, but I befriended her because I didn't care and thought she might be cool. Throughout our whole friendship, we have been in a trio with our friend S, 19F. I always noticed that she always had side comments that hurt my feelings and never treated S that way. Throughout our friendship, I have constantly brought this up to her and tried make her understand or create some type of compromise because she can hurt my feelings. But she has always dismissed how I felt. She would say that it's how she is. Generally, I was always apologetic, even if I was not in the wrong, while she would never apologize or apologize briefly, such as, "I'm kind of busy right now, I'm sorry," and move on with our conversations. There were other issues also, but in general it seemed that she always had an issue with me, and not with my friend S. For context, on a trip we went to Puerto Rico. We were very new to drinking, and I broke a promise one night. I was a designated sober person, and I broke the rule by drinking, but in my defense, we all ended up not following the rule anyways for the last 2 nights of the trip. Since then, R has repeatedly told me that she does not trust me, which I understand and have worked on. Now, for what happened in the last 3 days, me and S took a 7-hour drive to go visit R in college and to go out with her to the bars and stuff. Now, for context, I am a very messy drunk, and R put down rules that were targeted towards me. The rules were to not leave with any guys and not drink too much. Now I will admit I really f***ed up here. I not only disobeyed the rules, I went to the pizza place next door with a guy. And I also lost her friend's fake ID. I played her back and apologized profusely. And R also has lost one of her fakes at one point. Also her friend had 2 extras on her anyways. R was enraged with me that night, but we went to sleep fine. The next day, we all woke up and talked about what happened. I told R that I'm very sorry, and she said that she doesn't trust me. I initially said I would not go out that night because I felt bad, but ended up changing my mind and explaining to them that although they want to keep me safe, I believed I could take care of myself. I told R that I also wanted to prove to her that she can trust me again by stating that I would not drink that night. She agreed with me, and so we got ready and left to a different dorm building. The second we got there and saw her friends, it seemed to be a tense atmosphere, but I thought nothing of it. Around 30 minutes later, after R left to do an errand, she pulls me out of the room and then started telling me I can't go anymore. Her reasons being that she didn't trust me and thought that her friends were uncomfortable around me. This made me very upset, but we walked down to the exit. Because I've already had issues with her, I asked if I could take the key or card to enter the dorm because I wanted to go by myself and cool off. She then started telling me no because she didn't trust me. This honestly offended me because it was just opening the door with a key. We then proceeded to argue, and she got mad and left to go back to her friend's room. I got very mad and walked outside while thinking about what I was going to now for the rest of the night. I then decided to go to the frats by myself because I was already dressed and didn't want to spend the rest of my night crying in a random dorm lobby. I got to the frats and got really drunk and eventually was allowed to crash at a friend of a friend's place, which I'm really thankful for. My friends only started to contact me at 2 a.m. when their night had ended to see if I was okay. That morning when I woke up the next day still very drunk, I was feeling retrospective about my relationship with R, and I ended up feeling very upset and sent her a message saying terrible things because I had finally snapped, and her telling me she didn't trust me with a key was my final straw. I'll admit the message went too far. I went for her looks and for the fact that she has a harder time picking up guys than I do, and telling her she is an and has been to me the whole friendship. I knew I wanted to end the friendship, and I felt that our whole friendship she got away with treating me terribly and me allowing it, and this message was a final f*** you because I've had enough. And also the fact that she didn't bother to check up on me throughout that whole night, even when she invited me, and also said she cared about my safety speaks volumes. I think something that shows how she is as a person is her making arbitrary rules about my safety, while also not checking up on me the entire night I was gone, and also aggressively shoving me to the right bathroom out of anger to the point of my finger getting swollen while I was drunk. It hurt S when R read her the message I had sent, because R has always treated S nicer than she has treated me. On the drive back, I explained to S why I will not be friends with R anymore, and S told me that she didn't believe me in what I said about my experience with R the whole friendship. S had made up her mind and took R's side, saying that she wasn't sure if we should stay friends. After arguing for a minute, S started crying and called R, where she then proceeded to tell S to kick me out of the hotel room, and stayed on call with her while she relayed this message to me. After calling our parents, we decided to just stick with the original plan. I really think R is good at manipulation and trying to turn S against me. I understand I made mistakes, but so has she. I am not an evil or malicious person. I think I just hit a breaking point. And I don't think it is okay that R can manipulate S into saying that I'm in the wrong when she has looked down on me and has tried to put me down our entire friendship. S is a really nice person that I still want to be friends with. Am I the OP is not an AH for ending the friendship. Her toxic friend's controlling behavior and continuous criticism cannot be justified. And for the same behavior, I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. And OP gets nothing. Let's now move on the next story from Laugh Boring 8002. AITA. If I go low contact with my sister because she thinks badly of me. Some background. My 19F half-sister, 32F, moved to another country for study, as her father lived there when I was around 3-yo. She used to come live with us for some time during the summer at the beginning. Now she comes visit for a few weeks, but doesn't stay with us. I grew up in our hometown with my mother and study medicine here for now. Recently, my sister sent me angry texts, which, to me, came out of nowhere, and we had a 3-hour-long online fight. It started by her saying she hopes I fail my exam and called me evil. She called me a bad daughter, sister, and granddaughter, that I do not care about anybody but myself, said I never had empathy, and that she was always fearing I would grow up like this. Her reference is that I would throw tantrums and go scream alone in a room when I was 5, that she's heartbroken and failed as a sister, told me she has been trying to convince mom to kick me out and cut me off financially. Lots of other painful, unprompted things were said from her, especially concerning subjects which are sensitive topics to me. Now, I never did anything which I would deem deserving of such an outburst. Her main reasoning behind all of it is that I am messy and dirty, and I am not helping around the house enough. It's true that I am messy and can be lazy, but I do not think I am an outlier, as in, much more messy or lazy than an average teenager, or that it deserves this sort of reaction. I am not dirty. There will never be dirty dishes or food found in my room. She has high expectations of what I should do, as in, that I am not going to my grandmother's place to clean, even though she lives with other people fully capable of doing it. And me not aligning with such expectations automatically means I am abnormal and lack empathy. Keep in mind, I am a medical student. I barely have time to sleep. I also do not want to live at home and am planning to move to another city next year. Anyways, it's not like I want to leech off of my mother forever. A lot of her complaints were not actual problems I had with other family members, but random things which bothered her, which I was completely blindsided by. For example, she told me that I do not cook for mom because I don't have empathy. The thing is, I love cooking and offered it multiple times, but mom said no, as she has a different schedule, which suits her more. When I told my sister that, she said people are going to say no, and that I should do it without asking, and it's crazy that I even ask. Again, I already did those multiple times in the past, and the food wasn't touched. I know for a fact mom has no problem with our current setting. All of the examples were like this, and when I tried to explain, she would get angry and say that I am making excuses, and that this also shows my lack of empathy. Basically, whatever I said was used against me and seen in a negative light. She told me that it wasn't a discussion, and that she won't change her opinion of me no matter what I say, that she just wanted for me to realize how I am and fix myself. The conversation ended somewhat amicably as I continued explaining my side, and the conclusion was, guess we just have different ideals and perspectives on life and empathy. Later, she sent me memes and such, and I sent some back. But honestly, I lost my will to interact with her. It hurt me a lot to think that somebody I value and thought I was close to thinks so badly of me and sees me almost monster, and that all of my behaviors are seen negatively and attributed to my personality and never to external factors. I do not see a point of hanging out with someone that sees me so negatively, and I do not think I could even have any fun around them, especially because she said, No matter what, her opinion of me won't change. She's still family. I love her and wish her the best, and will always help her, if need be, but I do not want to visit or spend time with her, at least for now. But frankly, I do not see how this could change. However, I am second-guessing my feelings and wondering if they are justified and understandable. I am thinking that maybe I am childish, but no matter how I look at it, I want to be in the company of people who like me and appreciate me and look at me positively. OP is not an AH for going no contact with her sister. It is her sister who is an AH for always criticizing OP, despite knowing OP's struggle with her studies. So, I would rate OP's sister 2 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets 0. Let's now move on to the next story from Prestigious Car 1368. AITA for kicking my roommate's emotional support skunk? I, 21F, live with 2 other girls, Madison, 19F, and Emma, 19F. Madison and Emma were already living together before I was added to their apartment. Our apartment is a 3-bed, 3-bath nearby a university which we all attended. I was told by apartment staff that Madison has an emotional support animal, which was fine by me since I had a cat myself. However, I was shocked to find when I moved in that it wasn't a cat or dog, but a skunk. Apparently, in my state, skunks can legally be registered as emotional support animals. I was completely floored by this and wanted to switch apartments, but my complex said all other open units had tenants with cat allergies, so I moved into that apartment. For this Reddit story, let's just call the ESA skunk J. Before you ask, yes, its scent gland has been removed so it's no longer able to spray. When I first moved in, Madison reassured me that she never lets it outside without supervision and that it was calm and friendly. At first, things were fine. I got along with the girls well, and I rarely saw Jay. Madison said it was because it was intimated by me and my cat's presence, so it didn't want to come out. I felt some guilt about that, but decided to just carry on. Over the next month or so, Jay got more confident and started to venture outside more. One day, I came home to find food littered all over the kitchen floor. I was shocked to find Jay digging through my cabinet and destroying all my food. I found Madison sitting in her room completely unaware that this was happening. Madison stepped in and grabbed Jay. Apparently, Jay will eat anything she'll find, so I shouldn't put food in the lower cabinets or leave anything out where she could reach it. I was shocked because Madison never told me about this, and now all of my food was destroyed. Madison cleaned up the mess and apologized, but she never offered to repay me for the groceries. I didn't want to push on it though, so I just moved all my food from the lower cabinets from that point on. Things only got worse from there as Jay got more and more comfortable. I couldn't leave my door open even for a second because if I did, Jay would run in there and dig through my things or eat my cat's food. Then, Jay developed a new habit of following me anytime I entered our kitchen and crawling over my feet, I guess to see if she could get food from me. One day, when this happened, she bit down hard on my foot, to the point that it drew some blood. I was so scared and Madison apologized profusely. After that, I bought new sturdy slippers hoping to combat this, but Jay would just go for my ankles. And Jay was not just biting me, but Madison and Emma too. I was becoming worried that she would try to fight my cat, so I started to keep my cat exclusively in my room. I could tell this change really affected my cat's mood, and it made me feel horrible. I was starting to become overwhelmed with anxiety over this skunk. I would rarely leave my room, and when I did, I would be filled with dread. I asked my apartment if there were any other open units at this time. They told me no. I asked if anything could be done about the skunk, and they told me since Jay was a registered ESA, they couldn't do much. And so, the complex put me on the wait list for any available apartments. I started to beg Madison to take care of Jay, train it, supervisor it better, just do something. But Madison didn't seem to care. In fact, I don't think she even had a clue on how to really take care of a skunk. Jay had what seemed to me like a mediocre diet, no outdoor time, and little to no training. Madison didn't seem to understand why Jay was misbehaving like this. Apparently when Jay was a baby, it was very sweet and calm. But now Jay regularly would misbehave and was outright aggressive. I also wanted to say that Madison often abused Jay. When Jay would try to bite her, she would slam her foot down atop of Jay. When taking Jay back to her room from the common space, she would grab Jay by the tail and drag it inside. I even saw Madison slamming Jay against a wall at one point. I hated watching that. But I truly didn't know how I could fix this. I wanted to report all this to wildlife services, but I was scared. Would the skunk have to be put down? Would Madison try to get revenge for me speaking out? Yesterday, I was walking into the kitchen when out of nowhere Jay lunged at me. It caught me off guard. I didn't even see that she was in the kitchen. My fight or flight instinct must have set in because I kicked Jay off of me hard. She slammed into the side of the refrigerator and went limp. I panicked and found Madison right away, who took Jay to the veterinary hospital. I felt horrible for what happened and was scared that I might have just killed a skunk. Later that night, Madison came home with Jay. Madison didn't tell me much about what happened medically, besides that Jay was going to be okay. That's when both Madison and Emma set into me. They called me an animal abuser and a callous bitch. They said I kicked Jay on purpose because I didn't like her. Madison threatened to post online about how I abused her emotional support animal. Things got more and more aggressive, and I felt so scared, so I decided to leave. Now I'm sitting in a friend's apartment with my cat writing this post. So, am I the for kicking my roommate's emotional support skunk? OP is not an AH. Rather, her roommate is an AH for bringing her pet along with her. Although legally she was allowed to bring it, she should have considered the other people sharing the room. OP's reaction is 100% justified. She did nothing wrong. So, I would rate OP's roommate 2 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from Slow-Shake 8142. AITA for being mad over a football game? Redo. I, female 46, dating for the last 4 years, male 48, have always been very straightforward with my feelings. He struggles a lot in that area, but I was willing to wait for him to grow in it with me because I have my weaknesses too. Over the years, there have been several incidents where I felt very low priority. I'm not needy by any means, and have accepted that we may only have every other weekend to spend with each other because our lives are very busy. We both have kids, and we both have our kids the same weeks. We have tried to just take it slow introducing them to one another and figuring out how to spend more time together regardless of when we have our kids. We've had our issues. We've even spent some time apart as we worked through them. I have expressed that his lack of planning and lack of communication in certain areas makes me feel. A few times he's gotten invited to football games. I'm never invited along, and he doesn't think I should be upset about it because he doesn't get a say in who's invited if there are limited tickets. I usually get over it once I've thought about it and just recognize there's nothing to be done. He chooses that, and he should be able to without me making him feel bad. But I told him if there was a compromise, and he got invited to it again, that he could ask if I could be the +1 and not his son at least one time. He agreed to this. Today we were hanging out. I made breakfast for him and his son. I even helped with a radiator fixing and really value time spent with him regardless of what we are doing because I love him. And our time is limited, and I prioritize time with him over everything when I have the time to spend it. I went inside as I was finished helping and sat to wait for him to come in to watch the game. After a while, he didn't come in, and I went back outside to see how things were going, and he announced that they just got invited to the game, which meant they'd be leaving fairly quickly because it was a last-minute invite. My heart dropped as his son was very excited, and I really wanted to be happy for him, but it meant that I'd have to figure out the rest of my evening. We still had a good 3 hours left of hang time before I was supposed to go work by 4:30 nearby. I had planned to watch the game and eat with him as I live about half an hour away, so it wasn't convenient for me to just go home. Plus, I was sad that once again, I was getting ditched for football. We did get some time together, and I feel bad being hurt, however. After he said he was going, I just grabbed my purse and headed out. He always opens my car door, but I was annoyed and just said, "Have fun." I got it and closed the door myself. As I was driving home, tears started to flow as I was again left behind. Not chosen to go to the game and left to fend for myself. I'm a big girl, but it still hurt. I texted very quickly, "I'm really trying to be okay with this." He said, "Don't feel bad, we're not trying to hurt your feelings." I knew there was limited time to discuss how I was feeling, and that I would be dismissed in how I felt or told I was wrong to feel that way. I'm 46, I know how to manage my emotions, but this time I just couldn't take another "don't feel bad, this is just the way it is," without any regard to my plans or my feelings. I have to just accept that I'm low on the totem pole when it comes to things like this. Don't get me wrong, I would never make him miss time with his 19-year-old son. He's missed a lot of time after the divorce when he didn't get 50/50 custody. He deserved more time with them because he's a great father. But his son, as soon as he turned 18, moved in with him, full time. And I've just tried to navigate when I get alone time with my boyfriend, and when I'm asking for too much. I don't know, I broke up with him today because after all this time, I feel so unloved and underappreciated. I spent a lifetime feeling that with my ex, and even worse. Am I the for feeling bad enough to break up with him and totally blocking him on every avenue? After I expressed how it felt to be left out again, he said, "Well, I guess I messed up again," and hung up on me. He's normally very patient, but I don't think he wanted to feel bad for going to the game. Should I have just let it go and gotten over it? I don't know. OP is not an AH for ending her relationship. Her boyfriend is an AH for always neglecting and hurting her. OP's reaction is valid and completely justified. As for scores, I would rate OP's boyfriend 3.5 out of 5, and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Karma. It's a cat. 13. AITA for leaving my BF, the cats, the apartment, and the country plus never contacting him again. I, 19F at the time, and my BF, 24M started dating. I was only 16Y and still on high school. Meanwhile, he was living with his friend on a house and was on a medical leave cause of a work incident on his finger. At the time, he was the oldest guy that I've ever been with. We liked same things at first view, first one with a car, honestly whole new world. Life went on, he went back to his parents' house, got a new job, I graduated, and then got a job at a restaurant. So as our shifts were really different, we decided to move together. The real problem, I think, is I was a teenager that had a complicated relationship with family. Me and my mum didn't know how to appreciate each other and fight often. In the other hand, his family was picture-perfect church people. I even studied with his brother on high school. I got so caught by this so-called perfect family thing. After a while, I noticed some not-so-cool things, like his mom was way too much overprotective, and he always told everything to that woman, even intimate things, and everything she said was the most truth. The big problem was my dream job, flight attendant. She could find a problem on all of that, even the location, Dubai. She said that was no good. Notice that I live in a South American country in a really small town. Anyways, I tried to tolerate that until the time I got sick during COVID. All my tests were coming negative, but I was terrible. Really high fever, infected throat, no voice, super weak. I missed days at work. I couldn't clean the house, though I was never a good housewife to start. I couldn't even get up the bed. When she came to help one day, it was one of that summer days that the houses feel like an oven. In my country, AC are expensive, so you handle it with a fan and open windows. However, my apartment didn't have protection for the cats in the windows. One of the cats had even already broken their paw and ruined our already unstable finances. So I was not taking any risks again, and all the windows stayed closed. OFC. Notice that I was the one sick. Notice that even the cats were lazy with the heat, so I opened the window, but kept close to keep an eye. See how she complained to my BF that I didn't care about her cooking in the heat, and only opened the window after she took a medicine for headache? Anyways, he took her home as always, but took way longer to come back. Once he came back, he came directly to shout at me about what I had done to his mama. I pointed how always that he goes, "See, he's mom, we always fight." He didn't get it. I had no voice to defend myself and no man to take care of me. It was enough. When I broke up with him, we stayed living together for more 2 or 3 W till I get brave enough to tell it to my mom, who took me back in on a beat of a heart. I only took from the apartment what I brought, all the stuff that I bought or got, as gift I left there, as he would live there with a roommate and stay with the cats. I got a job on cruise ships, and as he totally lost his mind, I blocked him on most things, just not on FB, so he could contact me in case he needs something for the cats. But even when I was still on the same country, I never contacted or saw him again. Also, him never did, just tried to talk over silly things and went crazy mode. He donated the cats and never told me, just to my cousin after already done it, went to live back with his mom. Now everyone hates me because I'm successful in my career, saying that I should have helped him with the cats. He never put 1 cent on them when we were together, except for the time that one broke the paw, or with the apartment, etc. etc. But I don't feel responsible. Actually, what I think that really upsets him, it's that he tried to groom me and it didn't work. That now me and my family really appreciate each other. I'm healing and he's still the same. AITA? OP is not an AH for ending her toxic relationship. OP's boyfriend never showed any support towards her, and she had to face criticism from his mother. OP did nothing wrong. So I would rate OP's boyfriend 2 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets 0. Let's now move on to the next story from elegant_walla by _4024 AITA for calling my coworker lazy. I am 30 years old, female, and I work at a very known hotel in the state town I live in. It is one of the most popular hotels in my town, usually full even during the slow season. I work overnights at the front desk. I have been with this company for about 4 months. When I first started this job, this hotel recently got bought by a new company. With new companies, there are always new changes. I know this due to past experiences. Every day I work, I set up breakfast for the breakfast attendants, due to most of the items needing to be out by 3 a.m. I don't mind setting things out. The issue I have is the weekend breakfast attendants. Every Sunday night that I come to work, I go to set up breakfast and there is a mess left in the kitchen. I am talking dirty dishes that have been sitting out all day, the sink never being washed out. So think of slimy, stinky old hard food and grime sitting at the bottom of a giant sink, covering the whole bottom. Then there is the breakfast area that things get left out all the time. Usually, the signs for the breakfast items, and often the half and half container with the milk still in it, gets left out all day. There are more issues, but these are what I can think of at the moment. I know a lot of this sounds superficial and not a big deal, but when you have to do this so often, you start getting irritated by it. Well, I decided to find out who was causing most of these issues. I found out who it was in 2 weeks because they worked on a weekday, where we don't usually have more than one breakfast attendant, and the exact same issues happened on those days. We will call the person Bob, not real name. I started documenting the messes and issues to show my manager, and when I did, I was told to just don't worry about cleaning up after those messes. Just worry about your work and ignore those messes. They are new JJ, me, not real name. It's going to take them time to get the hang of everything. I reminded my manager that I cannot ignore these issues because I am unable to do my job unless these things are done clean. Also, this person started working here 2 weeks after I did, so no, they are not new. My manager asked me to let her deal with this, so I did. After another month passed of these things happening, I stopped doing the things I needed to that involved cleaning up after this coworker. My manager did not seem to care either way. Thankfully, I rarely ever saw this guy due to the days he worked never matched the nights I worked. He would work Sunday morning, and I would work Sunday night, but he never worked Monday morning and so forth. Unfortunately, our main breakfast attendant just had a baby and was out on paternity leave, so Bob was covering a couple shifts, which meant I had to actually see him. I decided that I was going to be civil and remain calm. That morning was a pretty slow morning for both of us. But I had a guest ask about more cups and coffee from the coffee station, and I let them know that I would find the breakfast attendant. I found Bob in the storage closet trying to close a playpen. Out of curiosity, I asked him what he was doing and if he needs any help. He then goes, "Why are you always asking me questions? It's annoying." Now this confused me because we never work in the mornings together. So I was unsure what he meant by always asking him questions, and I told him that I like to ask questions while keeping my composure. He then tells me that he's trying to get the playpen out of his way. I said, "Isn't that playpen usually there?" Due to the last 4 weeks of it being there. Bob then says, "No, it's not usually here. I work every day." No, he does not work every day. He only works 3 days a week. I completely understand being irritated and cussing, but I am not okay with someone cussing at me. So, I went off in a very creepy, calm way. I told him that if he worked here every day, then I would be more miserable because I would have to clean up even more due to him being too lazy to do his job, and that he should be worrying about getting coffee and cups out there for the guests and not worry about a playpen. Then I walked out. I messaged my manager about everything that happened, but I kind of feel like a big jerk. So, AITA for calling my coworker lazy. OP is not an AH. Rather, her coworker is an AH for messing things up and making OP's job difficult. Not only OP's coworker, but also the manager is an AH for not addressing the dispute. As for scores, I would rate OP's coworker and manager each 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, while OP gets nothing. Let's now move on to the next story from Boxo FCRA Yola. AITA for leaving my husband after he was diagnosed with cancer. Me, F36, and my husband, M41, have been married for 8 years. 4 years ago, I myself was diagnosed with sarcoma, We caught it a bit late, and it's honestly a miracle I survived. I won't go into details, but I underwent chemotherapy followed by surgery, and it was the most brutal, painful, and terrifying year plus of my life. During this time, my husband was distant. He's always been a bit of a workaholic, but he took it to the extreme. I was told over and over to be understanding BC, he was likely using it as a coping mechanism. So even though I was furious and hurt, I grit my teeth and gave him his space. A little over half a year after I was declared cancer-free, I found out that while I was fighting to survive, he had an effing affair. His best friend knew, and he admitted it to his wife, who I wasn't particularly close to, but I guess she felt upset enough on my behalf to tell me. That or too guilty to keep quiet about it. I was in disbelief, but at the same time, I just knew it was true. It was like everything clicked. Long story short, I confronted my husband, he lied, and I just kept pushing and pushing until he confessed. Apparently, me being sick and almost dying had been too much for him, and he'd been scared and felt like he couldn't talk to me because he didn't want to load his shit onto me when I was already dealing with so much. And at first, his coworker was just someone to confide in. But one thing led to another, and they started sleeping together. He ended things with her about 4 months after my surgery. We separated after that. I know I should have divorced him, I know that. But at the time, I just didn't want to deal with it. I was heartbroken, trying to get my life back together, and honestly, just depressed. Fast forward about another year, and my dad passed away. At that point, my husband was constantly reaching out to me to apologize, or ask how I was doing, or tell me he missed me and regretted everything, and how much he hated himself for what he did, and I was weak and let him back in. He really stepped up and helped with funeral preparations when me and my mom were grieving. He took care of everything. He became someone I could lean on again, and he was trying so damn hard. It was like how it was before everything fell apart. I missed that so much. So, I let him back in and decided to try again. We started marriage counseling, started dating again, relearned each other. I chose to forgive him, even though a part of me was still bitter as hell. I just shoved that part down deep and figured it would go away with time. And things were fine, for the most part. We weren't as close as we used to be, but trust takes time, right? 4 months ago, my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer, which runs on his side of the family. He started radiation therapy, and it's been extremely hard on him. I've been by his side from the second the diagnosis was made, and I hate myself for it. But all I can think is that when I was in his place, he was out there f***ing another woman. When he's vomiting into the trash and I'm rubbing his back or making him tea, all I can think is that I had no one to do that for me, because he was never there. When I hold his hand at appointments, I'm consumed by thoughts of how alone I'd felt at my own appointments, how my elderly parents had to fly in from another country because I had no one to take care of me, how I'd lie in an empty bed at night, wondering if I was going to die alone, because that's what I was, completely alone, despite the ring on my finger. How I'd effing beg him to just be present because I needed him, and he'd promise to be and then break that promise over and over and over. I thought I'd forgiven him. I thought I'd moved on. But it turns out I haven't. And I feel like the worst person BC, I can't get these thoughts out of my head. It's like all the bitterness and resentment and heartbreak I'd pushed down is taking over. And it's taking everything I have not to let it boil over, so I can continue supporting him while he's experiencing something so terrifying. I don't know what to do. I feel like a monster for even thinking of leaving now, but at the same time, I don't want to stay. I hate that it took me until now to realize it. It would be so selfish of me to leave, but staying means choking on my own resentment and pretending to be okay day in and day out for gosh knows how long. But at least I had my parents. Mostly they helped as much as they could. He doesn't have a good relationship with his, so who'd take care of him if I were to leave? I always thought I was a better person than this, and it shames me that I'm not. Right now, I'm leaning towards just being the bigger person and getting him through this. But my friend tells me that I'm being unfair and dishonest, and if she were in his shoes, she wouldn't want someone taking care of her who secretly resented having to do so. On the other hand, having actually been in his shoes, I think having to go through it alone is far worse. AITA for leaving or AITA for staying. My head is so twisted up that I just don't know. ETA. I've received a lot of good advice that I'm slowly making my way through, but I just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time to comment. While I still haven't come to any solid decision, just the reassurance that I'm not a complete monster is so damn appreciated. I did want to add that after me and my husband got back together, He really did step up and has been trying. That's what makes it so hard. If he'd just reverted to how he was before, I would have been long gone. But he's genuinely been trying to make things right. And maybe it's stupid of me, but I don't want to hurt him. I just don't want to give any more of myself to him than I already have. OP is not an AH for her feelings of abandonment because of her husband betrayal. Instead, OP's husband is an AH, the bigger one, for cheating on her wife when she was battling with cancer. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's husband 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Stanky Pete's. My mother-in-law said, "No whore will be the mother of my grandchildren, and now I'm realizing my biggest nightmare is giving her grandchildren." In 2016, I met an amazing man online on a website. I had dated many men and women, but this man was just different. I'd never felt happier in my entire life. He was so kind to me. We asked each other every question in the entire world, and I knew this man was my person immediately. People thought we were dating before we were even dating because our chemistry was clearly amazing. The website we met on was a game he owned that his entire family played. My man and I were chatting away in the public chat together for days, and then one day his mother came in and immediately was angry. She said, "Who is this woman? And did I give her permission to flirt with my little boy?" I was immediately like, what? And I made a little joke because I like to try lighten the situation. I didn't know I needed permission. Well, I guess she hated that reply. So she made it her literal life mission to try make us as miserable as possible. She threatened to kick him out if he didn't immediately ditch me. He didn't give her a reply to this, so she kept trying to say other horrible things to convince him that I was just a gold-digging whore, without ever having talked to me or knowing what kind of human I was. She went as far to say, and I quote word for word, "No whore will be the mother of my grandchildren." Then she tried to turn all my friends in the game against me, but they all sent me screenshots and told me exactly what she was saying, whilst begging me to not let her know they told me. Despite all of that, my man ignored her. He kept dating me. We were so happy together. I'd never met another human who ever made me smile as hard as this man did. My face was in literal pain daily because of how hard I smiled, to the point I'd violently cry because I was so happy but miserable that I'd never felt loved before in my life. My own family never even showed me love, and it broke my heart. Bleh. One day he asked me what my bucket list was. My whole life has been going on a road trip with amazing humans and just exploring the world, so he offered to take me on a 3-month road trip. He's from USA, I'm from Australia, so we did it. We went across 27 states in the USA and it was amazing. I didn't want to meet his mother for what I think was obvious reasons, but the rest of his family was amazing to me and they welcomed me with open arms on his game, so I came to his house anyway and met his family. At some point his dad even said very awkwardly at the table, when it was just us, and my man, Lizzie, me, seems very terrified to meet her. She's so stressed out and holy yes, I was stressed. I could barely breathe. I can literally remember exactly how I felt sitting in that chair, almost crying because I was so sad. My previous mother-in-law loved me. She treated me like a whole queen, and I couldn't believe I'd fallen in love with a man who had such a horrible mother. But I love him, and he asked me to do it for him. His mother at first was really stiff and uppity about the way she talked to me, and I hated the family dynamic she created every day with her children. She was as always angry at one of the kids and making a point of it by saying XYZ is my favorite now instead of XYZ. And honestly, that's everything I hate about parents, how they try make the others suck up to them for forgiveness. How they create a hierarchy in their own family, all because you live under my roof, you'll do what I say, and I don't need a reason type behavior. His mother also treated the youngest son's girlfriend like absolute but like to her face, and she was also clearly stressed out. The oldest son's girlfriend is like the queen. She treats her with unconditional love and support. They're like besties. Also, I heard her say this a lot. She said, "My sons are only allowed to marry women with blonde hair and blue eyes." Hello to Hitler. Anyone. The youngest son's girlfriend has dark brown hair and brown eyes. I have blonde hair and brown eyes. But when I visited her, my hair was bright red. People always thought I was naturally a redhead, and just straight up refused to believe I had blonde hair because I'm always making silly jokes, and they just assume that's one of them. Anyway, to the point, I never liked his mother. I only ever replied to her if she asked me a question, and then I left her alone. But as time went on, I could see a shift of her realizing she really liked me. She started trying to basically beg for my attention, offering me gifts and all sorts of love. Suddenly, she's the kindest human ever to me. But I think she's a bad human. I think that someone who can try ruin someone's life who hasn't harmed anyone or disrespected her even slightly is a bad human. I think someone who treats her own sons like their feelings and girlfriends don't matter based on hair and eye colors is not a good human. A few months ago, she randomly pipes up and complains that black people just gather around the shops and they're just saying, in this, in, see, in that, over 15 times. Except she said the hard ER over 15 times. I literally counted 15 times before I just stopped listening to her. Since that day, I haven't been able to sit in a room with her and not want to literally die. She is an insufferable human who has no morals or empathy, and I don't want to be around her. Literally, whenever she's in a room with me, for some reason I can't hear her anymore. Like my whole brain has entirely shut off that she's speaking. Even if it's to me, she asks me questions and I hear my man reply to her instead, and he rarely speaks in front of people, so that's when I pay attention. She also won't stop trying to touch me, and it's so triggering. I've started not going to their weekly family dinners because I think it's pointless for me to change my morals just this once and suffer by listening to someone that makes me this much anxiety and hate. Here's where I may be the Since 2016, my feelings haven't even slightly changed for this man. I love him, and I'm 100% sure that he's my human. But because of his mother being so insufferable, I no longer want to adopt children that could ever be around this woman. There's now the sad irony that the thought of giving this woman grandchildren is my literal nightmare. I've never really wanted to give birth, and I always wanted to adopt. But I've always said that if I had children, I would never subject them to abuse, and I would give them the childhood. I never had. My childhood was so filled with hate, I put my father in prison for 15 years for the things he did to us. I don't want to live in a world where I have to sit my little Sophia down and say, hey, actually, grandma is crazy, and we don't say that word, and we don't treat people like this. I don't want to have to spend the rest of my life pleading with a child to hear me over her, and I don't see a world where this man would ever deprive his mother from seeing his children. I gave him so many chances to leave me. I tried to leave him to save him myself, but he was always heartbroken, and he always agreed with me no matter what. He supports me, and he's okay with living his whole life with me, even if I never want children. And honestly, who wants to raise children in the United States in this atmosphere anyway? I feel like an for coming here and marrying this man, even though I gave him so many chances to back out. But I love him, and now he seems very sad that I'm no longer coming to his family dinners, and I won't be celebrating Christmas with them. I'll go to all the extra events from his aunts and stuff. Everyone else loves me. His dad is kind to me. He texted me the first time I didn't came to family dinner and said they missed me, and his little brother did too. They're also fun to play Fortnite with and stuff, but I cannot be in a room with this woman. I feel like the obvious answer is to tell this woman she owes me an apology, but why should I have to tell a grown woman that she did something bad? Also, why do people act like humans are like old dogs? She's not old. She works in the medical field. I feel like she's perfectly capable of knowing what she did was not okay. She tried to make our lives hell. She tried to kick him out of home. I don't want to do that. I will not be the bigger person either, because that's something people who enable bad humans tell us to do. She was the grown adult here, and that is what she chose to do. And her consequence is that she doesn't get to pretend to be a big happy family. Just a note, my husband seems very bad at processing emotions and empathy. The only thing this man knows is how to have fun and how to ignore stupid as people say. I guess he's been ignoring her antics his whole life and he's completely unpassed by it. But he seems so sad that I'm not coming with him. And I've explained many times that he cannot be sad or mad at me because this is her doing, not mine. I'm perfectly capable of taking abuse if I deserve it. If I cheated on him or talked bad to her, I'd say, yeah, my bad. I'd never expect forgiveness. But that just isn't the case here. I did nothing wrong to this woman, and I owe her nothing. Guys, I'm so sad. Thank you if you read this far. I just need a hug. OP is not an AH for setting boundaries with her toxic sister-in-law, but I don't understand the logic of not having a baby just because of the toxicity of her mother-in-law. In this situation, the best way forward is to move away from the toxic mother-in-law. So I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's toxic mother-in-law, she is a big AH, and I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. AITA for telling my BFF's husband not to yell at his kid. So, I'm a gay man, and I've known my woman BFF since childhood. Her hubby has never really liked me to the point that their 4 kids know that he pretty much hates me, and will easily admit that he does if I ask them. Over the last year, I've gotten to the point where I no longer care, and just don't engage with him whenever I go over, and to be honest, I've limited my contact with BFF and her kids because of this. In his interactions with his kids, he regularly yells at them for leaving their toys out, not picking up after themselves, for not coming when he calls them, for running 1 or 2 minutes late, for inconveniencing him in any way, etc. It's to the point that his kids don't really enjoy spending time with him because the littlest things seem to bother him and set him off. I typically just keep my mouth shut, but will tell his kids to do X, Y, or Z so that their dad doesn't yell at them. He's heard me say this, and when he's called me out, I just say it's true. That's been the extent of my intervention, though. They're not my kids, so I haven't really known how to interact. Plus, I know that my presence causes drama between him and my BFF, even if he doesn't say it to me. In front of other people, he plays the father of the year, and I just imagine him swallowing all of the things that they do that irritate him so that others don't notice or say anything. It bugs the out of me, but I just keep my mouth shut and let other people believe that he's this amazing, attentive father that he isn't. Last weekend was his daughter's 13th birthday, and my best friend had planned a party for her to have a few friends and their parents over. After some of her friends had arrived, my BFF asked her kid to show me where the projector was in the garage because we're going to use it and the power strip in the bag. We went into the garage and she picked up a bag, saying it was what we were looking for. She was carrying the bag out when her dad showed up and asked her what she was looking for. He saw the bag and began yelling at her that the projector wasn't in there, and some other nonsense. His daughter is pretty sensitive, and without even thinking, I told him not to yell at her, that it was her birthday party, and she didn't need that. He shut up and walked into the house, but in the hallway I noticed that he was quietly berating her. I told him to leave her alone and not to ruin her party for her. At that point, he basically just told me not to start with him, and he walked away. At that point, I was pissed and basically just decided that I needed to leave the party because I wasn't going to be able to hold my tongue. I walked outside, pulled my BFF aside, and told her what had happened and that I was leaving. As I was grabbing my bag and walking outside to my car, I looked down the hallway and saw that he was again bothering his daughter, and I told him again to leave her alone. His daughter eventually came out, upset. I asked if I could hug her and if she was okay. I then told her that I was going to go home. She was already upset, but I had my mind set on getting out because I was livid and knew that I wouldn't keep my mouth shut if I didn't get away. Before I left, husband asked me if I was really going to leave, to which I responded that I wasn't about to keep up the facade that he creates. As I was driving home, I was already considering that leaving wasn't the right move because my BFF's daughter might feel bad that I didn't stick around her party. A few minutes after I left, BFF called me and told me that her daughter was upset that I had left, and when I asked, she mentioned that she wanted me to come back. I told her that I needed some time and that I would go to the grocery store and buy some ice cream and chips for the party. When I returned, I kept my distance from husband and left before that last family did because I wasn't about to be there alone with him. Things are cool between me and BFF and her daughter. I'm sure I'm further up on husband's list and expect even more attitude from him and for him to talk even more trash about me to BFF when we hang out. But AITA for telling husband not to yell at his daughter at her birthday party? Also, any tips on how to handle this moving forward? I'm not going to stop seeing and hanging out with my BFF because of this, but I also know that my interjections have caused a shift. OP is not an AH for intervening in his BFF's husband's behavior, who was yelling at his daughter on her birthday. Her interference is justified here, and it doesn't make OP an AH here. Instead, OP's BFF's husband is an AH, a big one. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's BFF's husband 2.5 out of 5 on the age scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Larima 6789. AITA for trying to help my wife. During a stressful situation when she asked for space. I have been having a recurrent problem with my wife where she jumps to rigid, extreme assumptions about our communication when she is stressed out, no matter how I try to clarify, and it makes it incredibly difficult to have any healthy communication. Also, on her side, she feels that I don't respect her boundaries of not wanting to talk when she is upset. I feel that I try very hard to respect those boundaries, and there have been times where I have been in the wrong, but I feel that she doesn't understand the difficult position she puts me in sometimes with her boundaries. I had her review this post and make edits to make sure it was accurate from her perspective. With all this, I'm not saying I'm perfect or could not have done anything better. I am mainly hoping to get my wife to understand 3 things. I didn't call her because I didn't care about her boundaries. I called because I was concerned about her safety. So I felt that making one call would be reasonable. I was not gaslighting her about the road being a one-way. I was trying to help. And when she concluded that was gaslighting, I was defending myself. The assumptions she carries into our communication have a fundamental and devastating effect on our ability to have healthy communication and a healthy relationship. I have never gotten her to acknowledge it is an issue. My wife asked me to get her a hotel the night before an exam because she has a very long commute to school. She has trouble with navigation, so I booked the closest hotel to her exam possible and showed it to her on a map and told her the name, and that it's directly across the street from her exam hall. It turned out there was another hotel with the same name that she went to, so she called me very angry at me that it was my fault for not giving her the actual address, and she's wasted a lot of time now. I apologized, but I felt she was very harsh. She calls me when she gets to the actual hotel very stressed because she says her GPS is telling her to go the wrong way down a one-way to get in. I go on Street View to help her, and she gives me the intersection, but she is upset about the hotel and says she doesn't want to talk and ends the call. And she was very emotional because she had spent more time trying to get to the hotel than it would have taken to get home. However, I am concerned about her safety here because she was so emotional and lost on what to do, and had been making some mistakes, such as causing damage to her purse and suitcase. So, I made one call and told her I was concerned about her safety, and I want to help, and that I looked on street images, and the street is not a one-way. She was not really able to express to me why she felt it was, so I started to explain why I felt it wasn't. She dismisses my concern about calling for her safety, and assumes that I could have no valid reason to call after she said not to, and felt I was calling because I don't care about her boundaries. She accuses me of harassing her when she said not to call, and of gaslighting her about the street not being a one-way, and denying her reality, and berates me for this. I never got the chance to finish explaining why I felt it was not a one-way. I felt attacked, so I tried to explain why I felt it was reasonable to call, and why I wasn't gaslighting her, and why what I had observed indicated it wasn't a one-way. She interprets this as further gaslighting her and further escalates into berating me. From her perspective, I wouldn't stop pushing my belief that it was a one-way, and from my perspective, I am defending myself against an immediate attack on my character and intelligence. I offer to call the hotel to clarify, but she tells me not to. She later called me saying she was on her way home, because she felt that it would be faster to just come home. I told her I didn't think it would be faster. We talked about it a bit. She told me not to tell her what to do, which I didn't feel I was doing. And I told her she should do what she wants, and she ultimately decided to stay at the hotel. She had said some hurtful things, and has done this kind of thing a lot. So later on in the evening, I did call her 4 times when she wasn't picking up. And I do think this part could be experienced as harassing her, and I apologized for that. I think our text messages after the fact help to illustrate the dynamic and the communication. A lot of her argument and judgment of my character hinged on me being wrong to think it wasn't a one-way. And I do think I got pulled too much into debating whether or not the street was a one-way, which wasn't the point. Wife, I checked again today. The street was a one-way. And you repeatedly gaslit me about it and harassed me. Literally post about this on Reddit if you want. Your perspective is insane. Is my wife an asshole for freaking out after I repeatedly harassed her and gaslit her and disrespected her need for space? Me. I called you back because I was concerned about your safety and you were freaking out. Wife. I freaked out because you wouldn't stop calling me and were gaslighting me. You were literally denying my reality as real. The street was a one-way. Me. If it was a one-way, there would be signs saying, it is a one-way. There aren't. There are stop signs in both directions at both ends of the street. I know it looks like a one-way because it's too narrow for cars to be side by side, but it's not. Wife, it was a one-way. There were no stop signs at both ends of the street. I went and checked and was late to class just so I could check. I literally cannot with your gaslighting. Me. Attaches pics of stop signs at both ends of the street. Those are the 2 sides. Wife. Maybe you fail to realize that's not updated, there's construction going on, and construction vehicles and comes up, and there was no stop sign on the other end. It was a one-way. You're going to insane lengths to try and continue to gaslight me, and that's so disgusting. Me. Was there a sign that said one-way? Wife. Name. There was quite literally no way to go except the one-way. Once again, there were vehicles, construction, and cones. Me. If there's construction going on, that's a completely different thing. Why didn't you mention that before? Wife. It was literally and physically not possible to go a different way, because that was what was making it a one-way. Do I owe you every detail when I'm sick and in distress? My God. I was telling you it was a one-way and you refused to listen. Me. How was it physically impossible to go a different way? Even if the street is partially blocked, there's room to go around it. Was there a sign that said one-way? Wife. Name. It was a one-way. End of story. I'm telling you what it was. There were even arrows on the road. Literally, what the are you doing trying to continue to gaslight me in light of all the evidence it was a one-way? Do you need so badly to be right and excuse your actions? What the are you trying to do? This is literally a sickness. Trying to gaslight me so hard and prove me wrong consistently. Literally, what is wrong with you? You have no idea how disgusting you're acting right now. Me. If that's how you want to choose to see it, it's clear that no conversation is going to be productive. Wife. It's clear you won't stop until I agree what you're saying is right, even though you are so clearly in the wrong. That is literally abuse. That is psychological abuse. You do this type of stuff constantly, and it is abuse. Me. That's actually what you do. Like when you tried to bully me the other day into saying that I don't listen to you. I'm defending myself because you are attacking me, but I'm not trying to force you to agree with me. It's possible I could be wrong, that the construction made it a one-way. I'm doubtful it is, but it doesn't really matter. The point is that I was there trying to help you and expressed concern, and I wasn't doing anything wrong by telling you that it wasn't a one-way when that's what I was seeing on Google Maps. It's absurd to call that gaslighting. That's me trying to be supportive and helpful. You jump to conclusions that make no sense. And it happens very consistently when you're stressed out. I've pointed this out hundreds of times, and you've shown me you're incapable of seeing it. I'm done with this conversation. My wife wants me to note some things that contributed to her frustration. She felt that I hadn't been sufficiently sympathetic about a flare-up of a medical condition she had earlier that day. I had not been aware she felt this way. Also, after the flare-up, she asked me if she could come home and felt I guilted her about money into staying at the hotel. I disagree, as I had no such intention. Here was the conversation. Wife, can I come home tonight? Me, if you want. Wife, you don't want me to. Me, it would just suck to waste the hotel, but if you prefer to be home, you should do what feels best for you. Wife, okay. Me, what do you want to do? Wife, I don't know. What if you stayed with me? I couldn't go because it would have left me with 4 hours of sleep, and she decided to stay at the hotel. Also, she feels that it was messed up for me to mention the money, as I had just lost 2K USD playing online poker. This is not something I've ever done before, and she didn't know this until the next day. I don't think it is relevant to the interaction, but she feels that it makes me mentioning the cost of the hotel much worse. I only mentioned the cost because I took her message to ask if I had reservations, but I feel I made it clear what was important was what she wanted. OP is not an AH for being concerned about his wife's safety and trying to help. However, he mishandled her request for space by repeatedly calling and debating with his wife. He could have handled the situation differently and in a better way. No one is an AH here. Rather, all this confusion is a result of a communication gap between partners. They need to bridge this gap.